Bugungi darsimizda Cambridge 15 test 4 parser analizini shu test 4 davomini ko'rib chiqamiz. 21 to 24 questions, multiple choice savollari, presentation about refrigerator, refrigeration ya'ni muzlatish haqidagi prezentatsiyani savollarga javob berishga harakat qilar ekanmiz. Birinchi navbatda savollarni o'qib olamiz. What did Annie discover about reading? Annie nimani discover qilibdi? Readingdan. For a why created, how kept frozen, where located. E'tibor beraylik qanaqa qilib keyword topganimga. What point does Annie make about refrigeration in ancient Rome? Commercial success, snow from nearby, a long time to become popular. Pose Annie and Jack are worried about the complexity of the technology murakkabligi, the fact that some are disposed of responsibly, or large numbers that quickly break down. What do Jack and Annie agree regarding domestic fridges? Generally good value for money, plenty of useful variations, more useful than other domestic appliances. Xo'p, endi bularni davom ettirib, eshitgan holda javoblarni topishimiz kerak bo'ladi.
Part 3. You will hear two students of social history called Annie and Jack discussing their presentation about refrigeration. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24.
Xo'p, 21-gacha o'qib bo'lgani sababli buni qilmaymiz bo'sh.
Fine, Annie. 21 to 24.
Let's go.
Okay, Jack. Before we plan our presentation about refrigeration, let's discuss what we've discovered so far.
Fine, Annie. Though I have to admit I haven't done much research yet.
Nor me. But I found an interesting article about ice houses. I'd seen some 18th and 19th century ones here in the UK, so I knew they were often built in a shady area or underground, close to lakes that might freeze in the winter. Then blocks of ice could be cut and stored in the ice house. But I didn't realise that insulating the blocks with straw or sawdust meant they didn't melt for months. The ancient Romans had refrigerators.
Xo'p, insulating the straw. I didn't know that. Discover bo'ladi endi bu. Insulating the ice with straw and sawdust dedi. It doesn't melt. And shu B bo'ladi qisqasi javob. O'qiymiz. I knew they were often built in shady area. Shuning uchun ham seçib ketdi. Qayerda qurilganligini biladi. Some blocks could be cut and stored in the ice house, but I didn't realize keyword that insulating the blocks with straw and sawdust meant they didn't melt or for months. Demek bu qismda B bo'ladi.
Duration 2.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Pits were dug in the ground and snow was imported from the mountains, even though they were at quite a distance. The snow was stored in the pits. Ice formed at the bottom of it. Both the ice and the snow were then sold. The ice cost more than the snow, and my guess is that only the wealthy members of society could afford it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Hop. Qisqasi o'z ko'rganingizdek qismda nima bo'ldi? Mana pits were dug, snow was imported from mountains, even though they were quite a distance. Demak, aytib quite a distance degani uzoqdan bo'lsa ham olib kelib yuborilgan. Demak, B chiqib ketdi. Snow was stored in the pits, ice formed, was ice and were sold. Ice cost more than that. Demak, sold bo'lgan, shu ana qilishgan, soha qilishgan, olib sotib bo'lgan, commercial success. Kommersiy ana bo'lgan, success bo'lgan bu. A bo'ladi javob.
I also came across an article about modern domestic fridges. Several different technologies are used, but they were too complex for me to understand.
You have to wonder what happens when people get rid of old ones.
You mean because the gases in them are harmful for the environment?
Exactly. At least there are now plenty of organisations that will recycle most of the components safely. But of course, some people just dump old fridges in the countryside.
It's hard to see how they can be stopped, unfortunately. In the UK, we get rid of 3 million a year altogether.
That sounds a lot. especially because fridges hardly ever break down.
That's right. In this country, we keep domestic fridges for 11 years.
O'z ko'rganingizdek qismda complex haqida umuman gap bo'lgani yo'q. Chiqib ketdi. Hardly ever breakdown dedi. Umuman buzilmaydi dedi, lekin dam qilib tashlaydi. Odamlar shuni tashlaveradi dedi. O'sha uchun ham bino oldik. Tushuntirib beraman mana hozir. Xo'p, demak, irresponsibly mana at least there are no plenty of organizations with blah 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 blah. We recycle most of the company safely degan shu technology complexity emas degandagi ham o'xshab ketadi. But of course some people just dump old fridges in the countryside. Faqatgina shuni chiqaradi, tashlab yuboradi. It's hard to say how it can be stopped unfortunately. Shuni chiqarib tashlab yuboryapti, dispose of qilyapti-da, bu irresponsible qilyapti, buni qanaqa qilib to'xtatishni bilishmaydi bechoralar. O'sha uchun ham B bo'ladi javob. This sounds a lot, but that's right. It sounds a lot, especially because fridges hardly ever break down. Umuman buzilmaydi degani, hardly ever break down degani kamdan kam holatda buziladi, o'sha uchun ham C javob chiqib ketdi.
On average, and a lot lasts for 20 or more. So if you divide the cost by the number of years you can use a fridge, they're not expensive compared with some household appliances.
True. I suppose manufacturers encourage people to spend more by making them different colours and designs. I'm sure when my parents bought their first fridge, they had hardly any choice.
Yes, there's been quite a change.
O'z ko'rganingizdek, ko'p kechdi, 11 yil kechdi ekan. O'sha 11 yilga bo'lib tasang, anasini at least 20 years dedi. Mana if you divide the cost by the number of years you can use a fridge, they are not expensive. Yaxshi compared to other costs. Agar o'sha sotib olgan narxini 11 dan 20 yilgacha bo'lib tasang, shuni yaxshi narx chiqib keladi. Yaxshi, bu sotib oladigan pulingga yaxshi narx, qiymat dedi. Boshqa household appliancedan boshqa household appliancelarga qaramasa dan farqliroq dedi. Qisqasi more useful degan narsa chiqmadi. Qisqasi useful variation bo'lmadi, chunki u yerda color dedi faqatgina. Color bilan dizayn o'zgartirib qo'yadi. Useful emas, endi prosta o'zgarish bo'lgan. Dizayn basic o'zgarish bo'lmaganda, fundamental o'zgarish, o'zgarish bo'lib ketmagan. Xo'p, keyingisiga o'tamiz. Hope Annie, Jack, both Annie and Jack kim qilar ekan bu ishlarni? The goods that are refrigerated, produktlar, effect on health kim qilar ekan? Impact on food producer kim qilar ekan? Cities, transport, domestic fridges. Ko'rishimiz kerak, o'qishimiz kerak, eshitishimiz kerak. Buni kim gapirib berishini topishimiz kerak. Kim qilishini bu ishlarni topishimiz kerak. Qo'ldan kelsa topamiz. Qo'ldan kelsa topmaymiz. Ko'ramiz. Davr boshlaymiz.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion,
You don't have time.
answer questions 25 to
30. Let's go.
Right, let's make a list of topics to cover in our presentation and decide who's going to do more research on them. Then later we can get together and plan the next step.
Okay. How about starting with how useful refrigeration is and the range of goods that are refrigerated nowadays? Because of course, it's not just food and drinks.
No, I suppose flowers and medicines are refrigerated too.
And computers. I could do that, unless you particularly want to.
No, that's fine by me.
Xo'p dedi, produktlarni dedi, kompyuterlarda bir narsalar deb tashlatdi qisqasi mana. Starting how useful refrigeration, the range of goods that are refrigerated. Muhim narsa emas, flower, medicine, refrigerate. Dedi qisqasi kompyuterda I could do that dedi. Men qilaman dedi. Unless you particularly want to dedi. Agar sen xohlamasang, men qilardim dedi. Qilgan bo'lardim dedi. It's fine by me. Men farqi yo'q. Qo'r, o'zing qo'r, ani dedi. Senga mayli podarka dedi. Shuni A deyim, A bera olamiz. A qilib olamiz anaqa qilib. Bu A bu qisqasi. Ay, xudoyim. Hop. Mana A bo'ldi endi normalni.
About the effects of refrigeration on people's health.
Effects on health.
After all, some of the chemicals used in the 19th century were pretty harmful, but there have been lots of benefits too, like always having access to fresh food. Do you fancy dealing with that?
I'm not terribly keen, to be honest.
Nor me. My mind just goes blank when I read anything about chemicals.
Oh, all right then. I'll do you a favour. But you owe me, Jack.
Xo'p, nima bo'ldi qisqasi? Healthga nima qilamiz dedi? Men xolamayman dedi, ya'ni Jack ham men ham xolamayman, meni ham kallam o'chib qoladi dedi. Mayli, senga yordam qilib beraman. You owe me one dedi. Sen men o'zim qilaman dedi. Affects people's health mana qisqasi mana yozilgan. I'm not terribly keen dedi, to be honest dedi, xohlamayman dedi, normal dedi, men ham xohlamayman dedi. Qisqasi all right then I'll do you a favor but you owe me one. Men senga yordam qilib, men shuni o'zimga olaman dedi qisqasi. Men olaman degani I'll do you a favor dedi. Mayli, men senga yordam qilib turaman degani bu.
Okay. What about the effects on food producers, like farmers in poorer countries being able to export their produce to developed countries? Something for you, maybe?
I don't mind. It should be quite interesting.
Xo'p, qisqasi something for you maybe dedi. Jack qilasanmi dedi. Mayli, farqi yo'q, ishim yo'q, farqi yo'q menga dedi. Qisqasi mana. What about the effect? Impact ni sinonim bo'lgan. Impact ni sinonim effect bergan. Food producer dedi. Something you maybe dedi. Sen qilasanmi dedi. I don't mind. It should be quite interesting. That bo'l, tamom. I don't mind bo'ladi. I don't mind da, tamom. Javob bo'ladi.
I think we should also look at how refrigeration has helped whole cities, like Las Vegas, which couldn't exist without refrigeration because it's in the middle of a desert.
Right. I had a quick look at an economics book in the library that's got a chapter about this sort of thing. I can give you the title if you want to do this section.
Not particularly, to be honest. I find economics books pretty heavy going as a rule.
Okay, leave it to me then.
Thanks.
Qisqasi economics bookda ko'rib qoldim, men shu haqida ma'lumotni dedi. Senga beraman, agar xohlasang-da, men ekonomika yoshi kallam yurmaydi, sen qilsang yaxshi bo'lardi dedi. Mayli, qilaman. Rahmat dedi. Qisqasi mana. How refrigeration helped whole cities. Quick look at the economics book. I could give you the title if you want to do this section. Not particularly, to be honest. Xohlamayman. I find heavy going as a rule. Okay, leave it to me. Menga qoldirma, o'zim qilaman dedi. Shu uchun bo'ldi.
Then there's transport and the difference that refrigerated trucks have made. I wouldn't mind having a go at that.
Don't forget trains too. I read something about milk and butter being transported in refrigerated railroad cars in the USA right back in the 1840s.
I hadn't thought of trains. Thanks.
Shall we have a separate...
Qisqasi refrigerated transportda men qilgim kelyapti. Refrigerated truck dedi. Trainli ham esidan chiqib ketib qolmasin. Trainli ham milk eksport qilinadi dedi. Voy, mayli qilaman dedi. Qisqasi. Mana then there's the transport, the difference between that refrigerated trucks with me. I wouldn't mind having a go at that. Men qarshi bo'lmasdim agar men shu ish qilganimda dedi. Ya'ni trainlarni esidan chiqarib olma dedi. Hand sort of trains. Thanks. Rahmat. Bo'ldi. Demak, oldi bu. Any oldi buni.
Section on domestic fridges. After all, there's something everyone's familiar with.
What about splitting it into two? You could investigate 19th and 20th century fridges, and I'll concentrate on what's available these days, and how manufacturers differentiate their products from those of their competitors.
Okay, that's it.
They had hard...
Xo'p, qisqasi so'zmay dedi. Nima dedi? Nima bo'ldi? Domestic fridges haqida ham gapirishimiz kerak deganda, davay aniq qilamiz dedi. We split dedi. Bo'lib tashlaylik dedi. What about splitting into two dedi? Sen 19-20-asr gapirasan, men hozir gapiraman dedi. That suits me dedi. Mayli, qilamiz dedi. Farqi yo'q dedi. Ikki bo'lib tashlaylik dedi. Shu uchun ham C bo'ladi. Xo'p, shu bilan bu qism o'z nihoyasiga yetadi. O'zingga qaraganda bu qiyin narsa emas, juda ham oson narsa. Juda ham o'yinchoq narsa. Nima qilishing kerak? Vocab yodlashing kerak, e'tiborli bo'lishing kerak. Agar e'tiborli bo'lmasang ham vocab yodlagandan bir tiyin bo'ladi. Shu qisqasi mehnat qilish kerak. Ko'p mehnat qilish kerak. Xo'p, section 4 ga o'tamiz. Part 4 ga o'tamiz.